FRAGPUNK is the newest competitor to Valorant. It is a 5v5 competitive team shooter, and it's riddled with generative AI. It's in their promotional material, hell, it's in their title screen, it's in their paid battle pass, which they're charging players money for. And so when I found this out, I was legitimately bummed because the game is very, very fun. It's a really fun and good game. But I wasn't just bummed because it's using generative AI, I was bummed because it wasn't just doing it in a league of its own. No, this game is trying to purge Valorant, getting people like Tens to come over to the game, even giving them their own card. And yet for some reason, this new game by a subdivision of NetEase seems to think it's fine to load the game full of AI instead of just not. We'll get into the further proof of the AI claim or accusation here soon, but before we do that, let me go a little more in depth on what this game is all about. What is FRAGPUNK and what do I actually think of it as a game? I'll keep this short so that it's not too long and drawn out. This is a 5v5 competitive shooter, and in my opinion it plays very similar to a mixture of COD and Valorant. Now, the difference here is that this hero shooter, which has all these different abilities, doesn't just stop at there with its gameplay. It introduces a mechanic called shard cards. At the start of every round in the traditional game mode, everyone on the team will have currency known as shards, which they can spend on basically wacky modifiers to modify how the game is going to play on that round. In its team deathmatch game mode, they'll swap this out for shards you accumulate throughout the match, which you'll use to pop certain abilities, or you can get passive effects, and so on and so forth. It is, in the best sense possible, an ultra chaotic 5v5 hero shooter, and I think it does a very good job at that. The game is chocked full of game modes that you can play, a rotating playlist to keep things fresh, battle passes, which we'll get into, supply drops, which have a ton of stuff in there, weapon skin crafting, which allows you to make your own skins, and a whole wide array of heroes who all play pretty damn fun. So, what is the issue with FRAGPUNK and why is the video being made on it today? Well, I was playing the game the other day and I was having a great time with it when my friend asked me, what is it with FRAGPUNK that's going to make you put the game down? And my answer was very simple: when I stop having fun. Now, FRAGPUNK is a game for me, which I don't think is going to hold me for over 100 hours, but that's totally fine. I'm not looking for a forever game here, I'm just looking for something that is fun. And FRAGPUNK is fun. It is legitimately fun. But nevertheless, during this conversation, they mentioned that the Steam reviews had actually turned a little negative for FRAGPUNK. And my answer was, is this because they removed the translation for dialogue? Why is this? And the answer was that FRAGPUNK seemingly uses generative AI, and this was a little confusing to me because I didn't stand out as that at first. It just seemed like a very nice art style. I didn't understand how this game could possibly have AI because it didn't really stand out to me and other people, you know, it just seemed like a very nice stylized art style. But that was until I did some digging, and the very first image I was sent to check out was the very first image that opened up probably the largest can of worms I've seen when it comes to generative AI in video games so far. Now, a game like Black Ops 6, which has come under fire from fans for the usage of AI, rightfully so, I will say it seems to be a lot harder to tell when they are using AI. Stuff like that almost flows under the radar until the wide array of fans call it out, of course. And usually, from what I've seen, it's mostly promotional material in which this takes place. Of course, there are other examples of this not being the case, and regardless, none of it's okay. But we'll get back to Call of Duty a little bit later, because there's something I want to bring up regarding that. But let's get into the AI in FRAGPUNK, and I'll let you make your own mind up on this. What better place to start than the title screen of FRAGPUNK, right? Feels like a pretty suiting way to get us started off here. Well, on the title screen of FRAGPUNK, we are instantly introduced to their usage of generative AI, and we find out through an actually really funny method that is going to become a pattern as you'll see going forward. It's the lack of a finger, most specifically for this Lancer, that's what they call their heroes, up in the top left. As you can see, she is missing a finger. Now, I know what you're probably saying, well, that just looks like a matter of perspective. Maybe it's behind one of her other fingers, but no, this is just simply not the case. I think before we enter the game, we should make it clear that FRAGPUNK does have a terms of service that you do agree to, but if we take a look at it, there is no mention of generative AI in here, which will also become a pattern, but there is a nice handy mentioning of waiving your right to class action cases, which is charming. But let's get back to the topic of fingers, because I really want to make sure that going forward you're not already down in the comments typing, well, I don't think this is actually AI, I think you're very mistaken. So let's just get you with some really concrete proof here, and then we can go from there. So, a couple of days ago, I noticed on one of the promotional event images that one of the characters was missing, that's right, a finger. That is 3 fingers and a thumb, which obviously isn't what that's supposed to look like, right? Now, you might be wondering, this could also just be a case of, you know, positioning. There's clearly going to be another finger there somewhere, but no, that's just simply not the case, because if we actually take a look at the character in question, they have 4 fingers, and I'm even using their exact skin from this promo image. But you could be saying, okay, well, again, that doesn't mean that the image doesn't have 4 fingers, it could just be hidden, and I'm so glad you would say that, because around a day after I noticed this, which was, I believe, March 11th, there was an update to FRAGPUNK, and if we now take a look at this promotional image, they've given it a finger in position of the missing finger. They have not done this for the title screen, probably because they have not noticed that yet, but they are making sure to cover up their tracks on their promotional material that is coming under fire. I mean, it's only going to get worse from here, so strap in. Let's talk about FRAGPUNK's paid battle pass that they actually charge money for. They nickel and dime their fans for money, which by all standards, what I see online on Twitter and on other social media platforms nowadays, gamers hate. They don't want developers trying to pull every penny out of them. Well, FRAGPUNK does it, and they do it with generative AI. Here is an image of one of the items in the Battle Pass, and, well, as we take a look at this image right here, the issues start to pop out immediately. Now, I know it might be hard for you to tell if you don't know how to spot AI in imagery. So that's why I made this image to better point out all of the glaring issues, or rather most of them, because trust me, you could go down an endless rabbit hole with this. But in a nutshell, this is AI generated. It is clear as day, and any artist who's ever drawn anything in their life will look at that and tell you that is AI. Now the question is, do players have a problem with this? Do you have a problem with paying for a battle pass which is made up of images which probably took no less than an hour to actually make? Images that probably weren't done by a real artist. Another question is, do you have an issue with this, assuming that is the case, of this company now paying other creators sponsored streams to play this game, or them giving other creators their own item in the game to get them to come and play it? Tens is a very popular Valorant creator, and yet Tens was given their own card to come and play this game, and this game is made off the back of AI. Now, don't mean to bring another creator into it like that, and trust me, I've maybe played no more than 3 hours of Valorant in my life, but the point is that this is a competitor to Valorant, trying to get Valorant players to come and play it, and it's made with generative AI. Why is this a problem? It's a problem because the more this happens, the more it's going to happen. As competition rises, so will the lengths they go to take players from competitors. And as we can see, FRAGPUNK has a very similar game to Valorant, albeit with new things involved, and they use generative AI and then try to cover their tracks in the process. Now, all of this being said, let me make it clear once again, I think this game is a ton of fun. Like, really, I think it's super fun, but that doesn't mean two things can't be true at once. Now, let's also talk about the ethics of what they're doing here, because AI-generated work is not illegal, obviously, and it's clearly not morally wrong for Valve, who allow it on their store. Black Ops 6, which we spoke about earlier, does use generative AI, as mentioned by Activision themselves, and it's on the Steam store, where it clearly labels per their guidelines that it is made with generative AI. for those of you that don't know, failure to comply with this and label your game as made with generative AI will have it taken down from Steam's store. And well, FRAGPUNK, as you may have guessed by now, does not, at the time of this video, mention anything about generative AI. Meanwhile, they are covering up their tracks to make it look like their game isn't made with AI. Now, this would be fine for them if there were only 2 or 3 or 4 examples of generative AI in their video game, but there is just simply not. It's not just in their backgrounds on the main menu though, like we've already been over. It's in their battle pass, a monetization practice. It's in their stickers, another microtransaction. Now, one of 2 things is happening here. Either FRAGPUNK is using traditional and more conventional uses of AI by just straight up entering prompts of their characters and getting something to generate it off of that. But I don't think that's what they're doing. What I actually think they're doing is they are plugging in their characters into their own model they've made and having AI generate images based off of that. Now, if this is a case of them making their own model, then I would like to see the concept art and artwork they're putting in to train it. That's if that's what they're doing. If they're not doing that and they are stealing from other artists or other games or other competitors to train models to replicate that kind of art style so that they can make as many of these microtransactions as they can, then that's a problem. Now, let me just say that I am not completely against AI 100% definitively. I do think that regardless of what we do or do not like about it, AI and usage of AI in video games and in media in the future is inevitable, which sucks to say, but we have to just face the fact. It is kind of an impossible evil to prevent because it is tied to, and anytime you have something tied to money, it is bound to get out of hand very, very fast. Now, I do hope that this is a case of FRAGPUNK coming out and saying, hey, we paid artists for every single piece of artwork we used to train our own model, which we then use to make our own content to be sold in game. That would be the best possible outcome. Now, don't get too mad because I'm not quite done. Just stay with me here. That would be the best possible outcome, because at the very least, it would say that they made their own model and they inserted their own art that they paid for and real people made to try and replicate stuff without the need for hard labor. That would be the most beneficial outcome of this, assuming that they do numerous things. Number one, they do not refuse the accusation that they are using generative AI in this video game. They do not go ahead and not clearly label this on Steam as a game made with generative AI. And finally, number 3, they make sure to include that they are not going to, going forward, use generative AI, at least not excessively, for this game, because it clearly doesn't need it. In just a couple of days of launch, this game shot over 100,000 players on Steam, and it's already got Valorant creators behind it backing it. So the question is, if you have a very fun game with a very large audience, and the spotlight on it, why would you want to damage it and tarnish that reputation by using AI, which they're clearly aware of because, as we showed earlier, they're trying to cover up their tracks. Never before has a game made me want to make a video like this against it, but I will do that in the case of if I find a game that's really fun and I really enjoy it and I have concerns about it. I've notably done this in the past with Borderlands, where I've had tons and tons and tons of feedback and complaints to throw towards the game because I just really like it. Now, luckily in those cases it was never about AI and hopefully never will be, but with FRAGPUNK it's a little bit different. And I wanted to make this video, and I know it may seem a little out of the blue for regular viewers of my channel, but I do think that the usage of AI in this game is a problem and will continue to be a problem going forward if they don't address it now. But that's about it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have a great day, and I'll check you in the next one.